This is the My Michelle Live podcast.
Here's Michelle.
Though our group is a little smaller today, trust me, it's going to be just as loud and just as crazy because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Sports! Sports in and up today.
Sounders in playoffs once again.
Okay, we ready? Are we all good? We got that out of our system? Josh? All right, good. Before we get to some good news, some not so great news in Seattle sports, we are going to talk World Series. So congratulations to the Dodgers, Rich.
Dodgers win it in 6, and for the first time in 32 years, they are atop the Major League Baseball mountain.
Now, every time we talk baseball in any way, shape, or form, Joshua has a way of tying it in to get excited about the Mariners. And we need that because no one really is all that excited about the Mariners at times. I mean, come on. The longest, driest stretch in sports, just wanting, wishing, hoping to get to the playoffs, let alone will we ever see the World Series. Let's see if Josh can bring it home to Seattle.
I want to hear this. Boy, do I want to hear this.
Well, I will say congrats to Mike Zunino.
Hold on just a minute, guys.
Believe it!
Oh my.
Thank you, Dave.
You got to hear that. That's awesome. All right, guys, let's bring it home, Josh.
Yeah, well, congrats to Mike Zunino for being able to get out there and have, as former Mariner, get some World Series experience. So I really liked him when he was here in Seattle, and I was a little upset, because I was voting for the upstart Rays because they're just kind of a fun team to watch. It's been cool watching them as they've gone through a rebuild over the last couple of years. But congrats to the Dodgers and the other Seager brother out there making his name known, and a couple of great baseball players in those two. In more local Mariners news, Kendall Graveman was just signed. He's going to have a 1-year deal back with Seattle, and he's going to try it out in the bullpen rather than the starting rotation, which I'm excited about. He looked really good when he came back from his injury and a limited role in that bullpen. I think that could be a really good fit for him. So hoping that works out going forward. And like I said, keep your eye on what these Mariners do in the next couple of days. Now that the World Series is over, we're going to have deadlines coming up for signing or re-signing those free agents before everyone, the whole thing, anyone can sign anyone that is a free agent. So we're going to see some cuts. We're going to see some signings happening here in the next couple of days. So keep an eye on that market and we'll keep you updated.
All right. Are you still excited about the future of the Mariners, Josh? I mean, switch it up a little bit. Let's just see how excited he always is. He's such a bright spot. I love it. So if you are just joining us for our sports timeout, we always talk sports on Live from Seattle in this segment, but I do want to introduce you to the roundtable. Just wanted to get that congratulations to the World Series winning champs this year. Played, I mean, sometimes in front of a kind of a crowd. It's a weird year, but nonetheless, congratulations. So we get pinged by Garrick Payne. He is a pastor, coach, chaplain, an all-around cool guy. Brent Baker, he is a photographer, sports writer, and the author of a brand new book that is going to be out early next year, Brent?
Yes, February.
Breaking yesterday.
Breaking yesterday, yes.
Yeah. Oh, man. I've got a bit of a preview. It's a good one. Rich Holstrom, an author as well of Thunder Sports Network. He is a veteran sports reporter from right here in the great Northwest and the official 12th man. Joshua McMillan is our man on the street, and he is available for you to talk sports or just about anything else with on Twitter. Tweet him. Josh Reports Live. He's a tweet guy. And I'm your humble host, Michelle Mendoza, and friend in the afternoon. All right, fellas. Yeah, that's nice. We can get excited about the Mariners. We have hockey to get excited about in the future, but let's not talk future. Let's talk right now. We have some things to get excited about with our Seattle Sounders. So Rui Diaz and Nicolas Lodero scored goals. They clinched the 12th straight postseason berth for the Sounders FC. It was a 2-0 win over Vancouver, and that's great. We've had a couple of ties. We've had some really disappointing games, but doesn't that, Garrick, seem indicative of our Seattle Sounders? We rarely get a well, yeah, we're just kicking it, and without ups and downs and ins and outs, and are we going to make it? Did you ever have doubt, though, we would make it into the playoffs? I didn't. But it was ugly at times.
I think one of the things, we start out the season really in one of the best places as far as the depth that we had available to us. But as we could see what happened as the year went on, and then COVID hit in, and then we're seeing how important Raul Ruidiaz really is to the club. Because these last few games where we have struggled, we have been without him. And he's not just a goal scorer, but just the way that he plays and the way that he creates and the way that he draws defenders to him so that it opens up things for other players. It's really, he's really key. I think you and I had a conversation earlier this week, Michelle, that he is kind of similar to the Chad Marshall in the back. Rui Diaz in the front. When we lost Chad, we saw how much we really struggled there. And I think,
and that's something to speak on Chad's behalf. Chad wasn't like the player that you just go to and say, "Oh, he's the star." A lot of people will do that with someone like Jordan Morris on the Seattle Sounders. But I gotta say this on his behalf. He was like a glue that held us together. He was an unseen force. If he's not there, you really are missing something. I think you're right. We saw that with this last game and the return of Raul.
Yeah, he's not just a goal scorer. He creates, as we could see, that beautiful assist that he had going to Nico Lodero. I mean, that was one of the most beautiful goals that we've had this season from the standpoint of just the way that ball was created, the way he beat the defender, then slotted it back, and Nico just had a perfect finish too.
So Brent, we were playing Vancouver though, and Vancouver's had some okay games, but they are Vancouver. They're not smoking hot. So what's going to happen when we go down the road? I think we have Colorado, the Galaxy, San Jose to play. All right. But then we're going to get into postseason, and teams like our biggest rival, Portland, man, they had a win over LA. 5-1, they're looking pretty hot, and we've struggled with Portland this year. What happens when we meet teams like that in the playoffs, Brent?
Well, I'm more optimistic about playing them with Raul than without, certainly, because the last game when they played them did not have him. So he's just so huge in every way. I do appreciate the new white hair. It makes it a lot easier to spot him when he's out.
Is that a byproduct of COVID?
Yeah. Hey. I also think that many times the Sounders have shown themselves to be a team that kind of plays at the level of their competition. So I'm not really worried about a no-show for the playoffs. There's times, I mean, I know they've had a few games where they've just not shown up, but I think once things get serious here at the end of the year, I think you'll be fine.
All right. Well, we will see, but 12 years in a row, they make the playoffs. That's an impressive record. And we have, I would say, the most long-standing impressive record in sports in Seattle. Now, you could argue that the Storm have brought home the big championship more, but I think long-standing, the Sounders have probably the most winning record, Rich.
Michelle, I would concur with you on that, because I think the Sounders, through their many machinations, have had the most impact on
machinations.
Hey,
You just brought us up to a whole new level, man. We're
gotta pull out those college words.
Anytime
I can, I gotta deal with Brent and his brand new book coming out. I gotta come with something. But
Websters.com.
If you take a look at what the Sounders have done, they're the most consistent franchise in town in terms of, like I said, the different machinations, the different leagues that they were in 12 years in a row. The only other professional sports franchise over 5 major league sports that has more consecutive playoff appearances is the Pittsburgh Penguins of the National Hockey League, 14 years in a row. And if you count expansion teams, the only other team that has a better record than that, we also have to go to hockey. The Edmonton Eskimos the Edmonton Oilers, of the NHL and the Western Hockey Association made 13 straight playoff appearances. So
wow. Speaking of encyclopedia.com right there, sports right? Encyclopedia. Come on. And yeah, yes, they have a winning record, but they don't always get the press that they deserve. And we know that to be true.
It's Seattle.
It's Seattle. And yet, Josh, I don't want me to break your heart or anything, but the Mariners don't always have such a winning schedule, but boy, do they get all the attention. What's up with that?
Well, I think the last couple of years they've gotten a lot of attention because they've been in a rebuild. They've been turning this roster around. They made blockbuster deals, getting rid of people like Robinson Cano and Gene Segura, and making trades at a rate that no other GM or no other team has. And that's really why they've had a lot of attention the last couple of years, despite not having the best team. And there's been a couple of years before that where they were close, but they made that hard decision to about face, turn the ship, which can be hard to do. And he said from the beginning of this process that we're going to look towards 2021, 2022 and try to be competitive there and be able to compete for decades to come. And I think that's what they've done. If you look at how good their farm system has become, if you look at how good their young core of players really has the potential to be, I think that we're looking at a team that can contend for a long time, that is ready to catch up with the best teams out there, given just another year or so of development in these players. And as we bring up a couple of more and fill out the roster with that young talent.
Wow, as we machinate together, that just blows me away. He could take baseball lemons and make lemonade for the Mariners any day of the week. I love you, Josh. Guys, as we continue, I have a question for you. Ken Norton, should he get the boot?
Live from Seattle, third quarter sports timeout.
That's right. It is our third quarter of Live from Seattle. It is time for us to continue sportsing it up with our roundtable of sports guys. We have Garrick Payne, Brent Baker, Rich Hallstrom. I'm Michelle Mendoza, and we are taking on sports stuff right now. Guys, the Seahawks, I think they need to come with a health warning. Watching this game could be hazardous to your health. And I'm serious. I wonder how many people have heart attacks on Seahawks Sundays. Do you think that's a thing?
Did you know that Royal Brome actually died on a Seahawks Sunday? And I can't remember the exact game, but I think we either won or lost on a field goal. But that's a little bit of sports trivia.
Well, thank you. There you go. A little bright spot in your day right there.
Yeah, right.
Guys, what a disappointing loss. But come on. I mean, you play with fire, eventually you're going to get burned. Did we not kind of learn that from, I don't know, a Super Bowl a couple of years ago where we really could have and we should have, but we didn't, and we wait till the last minute? I think, Rich, you're famous now for saying that's what happens when you don't play 4 quarters, but we did play 4 quarters. We were dominating that game, and yet what happened, Rich?
What happened is the Seahawks still don't have a pass rush. Murray dropped back 48 times, no pressures on the quarterback, no sacks, and 3 interceptions by Russell Wilson, uncharacteristically throwing 3 interceptions. you're doomed for failure when your best player has an off night.
Well, do you really think he had such an off night? I didn't think he played terribly. I think we just didn't have a defense. Where was our defense?
Three interceptions makes your defense even look a lot worse than it is.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, is that now people are calling for heads to roll. Are we just squeamish? If we don't like what's going on, somebody's got to be fired. But coaches have been fired for less. Come on.
Yeah, but I think it's overly reactionary and
highly.
I mean, what the situation is that
because I'm just about at the point where anything they can do to keep me from having a heart attack on a Sunday night watching a darn football game. Right?
We're gonna have to pre-screen games for her.
I know.
You know how they have a delay on radio so that we don't use foul language. We have a delay for like half hour.
I think that's a
Michelle.
good idea. Yeah. And maybe I got to just go back to the Puppy Bowl or something. I don't know.
Well, Michelle, that's why they recently made the move for defensive end Carlos Dunlap, who put his house up for sale on Instagram and Twitter and denounced the Cincinnati Bengals and said, please let me out of here. And well, the Cincinnati Bengals have done that. And Garrick and Brent, you got to admit, this is the kind of player that they need. 82.5 sacks for his career. Somebody's got to bring the pressure on the defensive line.
Yeah, I think this is a guy that's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. And I think if there's anybody that's set up to succeed with a fresh start, it's this guy, because he's been playing with one of the worst franchises in the league for his whole career. And then to come to Seattle with the whole culture here. Going back to the overall level of the play on the defense, I'm going to hit you here. With all of the permutations of Pete Carroll's defense.
Oh, come on. You guys are making me look good. I like it. And then I can even pretend like I know what you're saying. That's even better.
But all these defenses, really, Pete Carroll owns them. He's had multiple defensive coordinators, and so ultimately the changes that need to be made are going to come with his blessing. And so I think getting some more players, which they've been trying to do between Snacks Harrison, who we haven't seen yet on the field, Jamal Adams, that we haven't seen much of, but should be back probably next week. I'm thinking not this week. And Dunlap, hopefully the injuries will help, or the additional players will help, and the injuries will go away. But the pass rush, it forces Russell Wilson to be perfect. And amazingly, through the first 5 games, he pretty much was perfect. And it's just not something that even he can sustain. So he had a game that was pretty good, and pretty good isn't enough when you can't even touch.
Well, it can't.
When you can't touch a Russell Wilson clone playing on the other team.
Well, and also,
go ahead,
Michelle.
No. I insist.
Well, it seemed like too. I mean, there were a couple other factors. Our offensive line wasn't giving Russell the protection that he needed either. And I mean, he's used to scrambling out of things, but that final drive that Russell had, I mean, he could do nothing.
That overtime was pretty bad. Yeah. I think they're exhausted.
I'm sure they were. But then on top of that, I feel like the drive prior to that, we weren't letting Russell cook. And I don't know whether it was, Shanahan or whether it was Pete, but Russell was not able to do what he usually does. And so it was just back to the run game. Well,
let's be clear though. We came pretty close. I mean, if it wasn't for what was that? It wasn't that call that pulled back the touchdown.
Bobby Wagner.
Yeah. Man, if it wasn't for something like that,
goal,
come on,
been a field goal. Yep.
So it was still really close. We are far from the end of the season. And, we are doing so well that we're whining like it's the end of the world when we have just barely lost a game. What's going on? Heads must roll.
It could be worse. You could be the New England Patriots or the Atlanta Falcons.
Right? No kidding.
Hey, I got to tell you though, a year from now, maybe even 2 weeks from now, I will not remember what happened in this game except for DJ Metcalf running down Buda Baker That was
yeah,
one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen by just a freight train of a player. And that was just
so cool.
I don't know if you've seen the mic'd in. There's a Buda Baker was mic'd in on that play, and as he came off the field, I can't repeat what he said here, but he could not comprehend what had just happened to him. So that was just amazing. It was almost worth losing the game just to be able to see that. Almost.
Brent, if you repeated what Buda Baker said, the station would soon be a fruit stand. So we won't do that on the show.
All right, let's look
machinate that.
Let's look at what the future games look like for the Seattle Seahawks, what tweaks we're going to make, and how we think we're going to end up in this year. Do you think up until this last game, everyone said, "Oh yeah, Seahawks in the Super Bowl, Seahawks Super Bowl," and one game and it's crickets.
Well, I would say, Michelle, got to remain consistent. Like I said last week on the show, the Seahawks are playing in the best division in pro football right now, the NFC West. Being 0-1 in the division is not a good thing. So you got to make that victory over the San Francisco 49ers happen this Sunday. Even though you have some injuries in the running back core, you're going to have to come up with some answers there, and the offensive line is going to have to perform better. And we know that Russell Wilson is not going to throw 3 interceptions in a game back to back. Come on.
Yeah. I think we can know that player. Although the 49ers have played fairly well, I like beating them. They call Russ the Hobbit. I don't like that much. I just right, Garrick?
Well, our next 3 games will determine how we do for the rest of the season. Okay, we've got the Niners, we've got the Bills, and then we've got
Arizona again right after that.
We got the Rams. We got the Rams first.
Okay.
And so all 3 of these teams are going to be a real test for us. And then we play the Cardinals again right after that. And so that game I'm not worried about at all, because the Seahawks are going to be coming out with such a huge
we're not letting that happen again.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. But these next
Brent,
3 games are going to be crucial.
You're next.
Well, one of the unsung maybe not be the right word, but one of the injuries that actually cost them and could cost them if he has to miss any time was Travis Homer, third string running back, but he is the blocking back on third downs. And on those drives at the end of the game where Russell got sacked, there were some whiffs by DJ Dallas in the backfield that Homer makes. He picks up those guys all the time. And so he may not run the ball great, but man, as a blocking back, he is golden, and he needs to be healthy for those situations.
Is it fair to pray that your team, when you're a Christian person, do you ever pray? Not just pray that I pray that they're healthy and all that. This is just a question I want to ask before we go to our final shot. Is it okay to pray that your team wins?
I don't pray that my team wins, but I pray that my team exemplifies
plays their best. Plays their best.
Great effort.
That's a great way to do it. I don't know because I like that idea. And let's pray that they play their best and a great effort. No one gets hurt. But I'm not going to lie. When the Sounders last year and in the cup, man, I pray, God, please, like Jesus is up there going, Michelle, come on, guys, it's time for our final shot. Let's take it. Take a shot. All right, we're going to go around the round table, talk to the fellas, and find out what their final shout out is for and what they'd like to give a little tribute to. Guys?
I'd have to go with Raul Ruidiaz. I mean, we talked about it before, and he is such an exciting player. I will tell you, when the Sounders were talking about bringing him, or when they actually signed him, I went out and I searched for, Raul Ruidiaz goals and stuff, and I was like, I don't know about this guy. Is he really that great? And boy, from the very first day that he joined the club, I knew. it's like, okay, I get why we got him. And he has not disappointed. He brings it every game. He is a true forward in the sense that, you had a guy like Clint Dempsey, who's a goal scorer too, but he would, track back into the midfield and try and create things and get things stirred up. But Raul Diaz is always there. As a defender, you're having to watch him and pay attention to him, and it opens up opportunities for people like Jordan Morris and Ladero and others, and he's one of my faves.
There you go, Brent Baker.
My shot is to the Tampa Bay Rays and the LA Dodgers for Game 4 of the World Series, which was
what a game. Yeah,
probably as great a World Series game as I can remember watching, with all the lead changes and every last guy having to play, and then just an absolutely insane finish with actually another ex-Mariner in the middle of it, Chris Taylor, who was like their third string center fielder forced into action, who made an error that kind of contributed to that. But I just, I know that the ratings were really down for the World Series, but if people had seen that game, the people who didn't see that game really missed something.
Yeah, indeed. Rich Hallstrom.
Well, I got to go with the World Series once again, but not for a good reason. Tampa Bay Rays manager Kevin Cash. What are you doing taking Blake Snell out of the game after 5 scoreless innings?
And there's our Seattle
head 1-0, and there's a Seattle connection. I mean, if you don't want them, the Mariners will take them. We can use them. Kevin Cash, do you deserve your job? Let us know.
That's not so much as a shout out as a shout down, man. Come on. Yeah. So my shout out goes to Darryl Strawberry. He was asked if he has been watching the World Series. He said, no, I've been busy preaching. Sometimes
awesome.
Darryl Strawberry, come on. But his focus is so strong on sharing God's love. He said, I'm just not there right now. Sometimes God takes us in different paths and we cling to the past like they were the glory days. But when the glory days are ahead. And that's something to get excited about. Guys, I am always excited about sportsing it up with the boys. I love it. Thank you for joining us today. Happy Blue Friday. And ladies and gentlemen,
for more fun, go to MyMichelleLive.com.